All right, guys, girls, channel members, who else is in here? I've got Matt Pangrac from Bass Talk Live. He is in the stream now. Matt, it's been a while. Welcome back to the Baitman stream.
Dude, you've had like all the big names on. You had like Zona on and all these guys. I mean, I'm glad that I was able to just to fit back in your schedule sometime after all the big leaguers you've had on the Baitman's channel.
Yeah, I got lucky. I can get some big names, but I can't catch any big fish. So I guess that's a trade-off.
Were you
But
out with Menendez today?
yeah, so I was out with Menendez. I've been up since about 5:30. I was actually sick this morning, and I really didn't want to film. I'm gonna be honest with you, but the conditions were prime on Kentucky Lake. Overcast, 55-degree water. He texted me what he was gonna do. I was like, "Yeah, you'll whack him," and he did. Had a really, really good day on Kentucky Lake.
That's
Uh,
been I think that phrase has never been said in the past 6 years.
no, the two best days I've had on Kentucky Lake have been with Mark, but if you go out with a professional, and he still is a
hmm
professional, it changes things.
He's
But
a big. Is he a big Barkley guy?
he is. He does, but we just haven't been able to make it happen over there.
Because it wasn't his dog named Barkley, which obviously had
Yep.
like Barkley with Bark with the dog, but then also I would imagine that
Yeah.
had something to
So
do with it.
yeah, and that was a huge deal. Like Barkley the dog was, came in at the Bassmaster Classic. He led it for 2 days, and people seen Barkley on the front of his boat, and Barkley was like his own thing.
I
If
know.
Facebook was alive back then, I'm sure he'd had a Facebook page made about him.
Oh, he'd have had an Instagram page with more followers than all of us combined.
Oh, easily. So, but yeah, Kentucky Lake, it is what it is during the summer. It's really tough. The fish do different, but what we've got is a huge crop of threadfin shad. And you don't have to be a biologist to know. If you've got bait, you're going to get bass. And it's created kind of a feeding frenzy among the bass. We've had a couple good spawns, a lot of 10 to 12-inch bass, fat, healthy. But we caught some 3 to 5 pounders today that were just healthiest fish you've seen. And they're active. And I think maybe the cold weather has really positioned these bass where they should be. And didn't really see any Asian carp. It's kind of got them way off scattered, making the good areas good. So that's my Kentucky Lake report.
That's like very positive. That's the first positive Kentucky Lake report we've heard. The fish that Mark held up too looked. They said it looked healthy as heck.
Yeah, I got another. We caught another one. I didn't post it. I sent them to him and let him do his
Big one.
posting. Yeah, about the same size.
The first check that I ever cashed in the Toyotas was on Kentucky Lake in April, and I talked with Mark. Like he gave me like three general areas. He's
Right.
like, they catch him here, like not specific stuff, and he's like, and if it's just horrible, there's a population that always lives here. And I caught 5 fish in 2 days and cashed a check out of one of those spots. It's a 3 mile area, but I went in there and he's like, for some reason they always live in there, and I caught five fish in 2 days.
Yeah, like so it's cool filming Mark. Obviously, I'll learn about baits and stuff. Now he asked me questions on some balsa stuff, but I'll learn more about places I've been fishing for a long time. He knows the ins and outs. Like he knows where this stump is, or where this fence row is, or there's a lay down here. And I'm like, man, I've never seen that, dude. I fish that all the time. It's that's the difference to me between elite level guys, and he spent way more time on the water than me, even on my home lake. But
Mm-hmm.
and then the local average guys, they know it's like the back of their hand. Like I know my bait room, other than what's in the floor, that's just a mess. I know where everything's at. He knows. So, but you yourself had a pretty good year on the opens. You just missed qualifying for the elites, very small margin.
There's no such thing as a pretty good year. You either do it or you don't.
Is
I
that kind
guess
of how
if
you
you
feel
win
about it?
one, you could win one and not qualify, and it would still be, you could still have a successful year because you got the classic and all that and financially. But like, other than that, you either do it or it sucks. So it sucked.
Right, but it, you're also juggling full time BTL now.
Yeah,
Jeffrey's retired last year. Kind of came as a shock to me, but you've explained it to me and everything.
it
I
came as a
totally,
shock to me too.
I mean, I get it.
I thought I had another year.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing a great job though. You've had some awesome guests. You're really diversified and not just having the same kind of guys on. You've had elite guys, MLF guys. You've had, of course, you got day 4 with Frank. Everybody loves Frank, and some of the guys that always have came on, and you've continued that. How hard is it really for you to juggle BTL and the trying to make the elites?
At the beginning, it was. So what I would do, so a lot of the time, like if I had like a 2-week or a week off, and then I'd be on the road for like a week or two, I would come home and I would like literally spend like 18 hours in the studio and do like 6 BTLs in one day, which sucked by the end of 6. You're filming for like 7 hours and doing it all, and then I would have it set on on YouTube, on the podcast platforms, and on the website to all go live while I was gone. So I ended up spending a lot of weeks getting ahead on BTL instead of getting ready for the Open.
Right.
So I'd be like in the studio like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'd be like, okay, I know I've got everything. Then I just get to the tournament and then worry about it when I got there, which is not the way to do it. I mean, it's what I had to do, at the time, but probably not the best for being like totally prepared for all of them when you go into it. But
so would you like pre-record them and then like push them to like publish live on
whatever?
Okay.
Yeah. So at one point I had 11 pre-recorded shows in the can that I did in a 3-day period.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I've done like the pre-recorded podcast thing, and I probably should do it every now and then, but I like the live interaction. But that explains why I'd be typing stuff in the chat and no one would say nothing to me. I'm like, damn, man, I must have hurt this dude's feelings.
No, that happens sometimes, but here's the thing. So BTL, there's a core group that watch it live, anywhere from like 250 to 400, 500
Same
people
guys,
every single
day.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. But, that's just like a tiny little percentage. And then you have the group that watch it on the YouTube replays. But the vast majority of the interactions with BTL and the people who download it, it's a straight podcast. Like it's a podcast, no visual stimulation, straight on audio, which is kind of weird. But in that format, it doesn't matter like if you're live or not, because no one's listening to the podcast live anyway. As soon as it's out, it's it's a recorded podcast.
Yeah, so that's like, I've been told you need to download your live streams, throw them on MP3, throw them up there. And I'm just, I've been working, and I get home, and I'm working on house renovations, and I forgot to do that. But I know I'm missing a huge demographic of the guy that's driving every day or travels to work an hour in the morning or hour back and just wants to download and listen to a dude talk about fishing, baits, and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of what I try to figure out is how can I do things that hit with the YouTube, like the show viewers, but that you could also understand like on the podcast. So that's like kind of like back in the early days, like Howard Stern would always do the like shows and stuff like that, like where they had people out on the streets and tons of people were just listening to that on the radio. So there's a way to tell through audio so they can kind of get a visual of it. It's a weird way to try to teach and have a bunch of visual stuff, and especially in fishing, through a podcast, but apparently it works.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people tell me like, "Yo, let's do you and Epic Eric talk about balsa flat size," and I, on my drive, and I learned so much. I'm like, I don't know how you learn without looking at something, but I mean, it just sinks in their head. But also, if you're a good communicator, I don't know if it matters. If people could start to picture, it's kind of like when I used to do writing and stuff for classic patterns and stuff. You always write a story. You're not just writing words. You're trying to paint a story. So
yeah.
I'm going to get to some questions, man. I posted in your little BTL fan page that I was going to have you on here. So
yeah, I need to get back on that. So obviously, if you followed, I dropped my phone in the water like over a month ago at Hartwell, and then it took me like 11 days to get my iCloud password reset. And then I've slowly been downloading everything. I didn't have anything downloaded on the cloud, and then I still haven't gone through like the official setup for my phone. So I don't even have Facebook downloaded, like the app on my phone for the last month.
It's really not a bad thing.
No, it's not. I do that. I'll tell you, these are the apps that I have downloaded over the last month. These are the critical apps in my life. Outlook Mail, Google Maps, Instagram, the Sport Clips app, so you can just walk right in and get that $19 trim. YouTube and Toon Blast. There you go. That's I could live with just those.
I've never heard of Tube Blast. I might have to look
Toon
that up.
Blast, TUNE, TOON.
Oh, I thought you said tube like YouTube.
No, Toon Blast. It's like the. You ever played this one? Like you hear that music?
Yeah.
And then you like blast the cubes. I was really bitter because I was always logged in as a guest for like 6 years, so I was at like level 5,000. Like I was approaching the top level.
Oh, top tier on that.
It's I was in like one of the groups that you had to be like pretty high level to get in, and now I totally screwed. I'm all the way back to like level
like
600.
Being elite at Farmville back in the day.
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. I don't have to worry about the Sports Clips deal because my wife cuts hair, even though it may not look like it sometimes. I get the free deal on that. But I know how that is, dude. I lost my phone at OHIV 2 years ago, and everybody's catching all those giants, and I had all these photos of big ones I'd caught. And I don't know what happened. I think I was helping Casey load his boat or something like that. And I had these bibs, and it, had a zip, and I guess I didn't have it way down there. And the only thing I think is when I was leaning over helping, it went in the water. Dude, I panicked. I looked for like 8 hours in the dark. I could not find it.
What I did was, I've got this weird deal where when I talk, I don't have like Bluetooth or anything like that, which I should. But I take my phone, and then I put it on speaker, and then I toss it in the back of my hoodie. Like in the pouch, like it's impossible for it to come out. Like it's like just back there. And then I can fish, I can do whatever. Like if I'm talking to Brad during an open practice, I can sit there for an hour and a half and he can hear me and I can fish. And I mean, I'll like pull the trolling motor up, move, do the whole thing, and the phone just stays in the back of the hoodie. Well, AFCO had these brand new hoodies, and they kind of had like a slick inner lining, and they weren't as deep. They were more kind of form fitting.
Right.
So, like, I reached down. I was on the phone talking to someone. It's almost dusk. I reached down to pick up another rod, and the phone goes shoom and shoots, like, right past my face out the side of the hoodie and just, boom, lands on the water. And like an idiot, I, like, get down on my knees, and I'm like, maybe it'll pop back up. And no, it's a freaking iPhone with, like, a heavy case. It's not popping back up.
Sinks like a rock.
Yeah, so then I like hit a waypoint there, and I'm like, well, I know what it is. I'm like, what the hell good is that going to do? It's 28 feet deep right here.
Yeah, that boat ramp at Ivy is clear, and I went down there at night with like flashlights. I couldn't find it.
God. Yeah.
But it hits a ramp, and it hits a little bit of algae, and it probably slides here, and it hits a rock. I was hoping it was waterproof, and then I could call it in a few days. Maybe it would FaceTime me some bass.
So mine went dead because I ended up staying at a hotel because I couldn't get a hold of anyone because I was staying with Upshaw and Sokup and Brad, and none of them checked their messengers, and I didn't have any of their numbers or any way to contact any. Anyway, I ended up at a microtel, and my girlfriend checked her messenger, and I said, where does it say that I am? And she's like, nothing. You're like off the grid. Like you're no longer on like Find My iPhone. And I was like, okay, well, it's dead.
Here's a quick question. We'll get out of the cell phone talk real quick. Not that I care. But you did tell me you're on a limited time frame. I'm going to try to stick to it. Hunter Nixon, send a super chat for $2. Appreciate you, Hunter. What's your favorite big bite plastic Pangrac?
I'm very partial to the BFE and Tilapia Magic. That is a freaking awesome little flipping bait that Bradley Hallman primarily designed. I had some like small input on that as the whole thing went in, but my main input was not splitting the paddle tail on the big bite, and that was kind of like a little Ugly Otter deal. I used to be a big Ugly Otter fan back in the day.
Yeah, that's kind of a forgotten flipping bait. That was a good bait.
Dude, it still is. You ever take an Ugly Otter feels like a chatterbait when you're reeling it in.
Yeah, it's got kind of a thumping swim action. I'd always wondered on the BFE why the tail was fused in like that. But
so if you hop it like in a pool, right, and you watch it, that bait's going to stand right up, and then it's going to slowly fall like that. And if you pop it right, the tail actually flips over, and then it pops back up and falls all the way over. It takes about 7 seconds after you pop it for that whole thing to do it. That's because it's catching more water. It's a slow fall. If you cut it and it falls, it's just like blur. It doesn't do that because it doesn't catch the water or anything. Brad cuts it a lot more than I cut it. I've never cut it. I don't like to cut it.
It's amazing what you see in a bait in the pool. Like when I had mine going, like you could put a beaver on a Texas rig, non-peg. You'd flip it down at the end of the steps. And I'd always turn the jets on, to simulate some current. You flip a beaver and you watch the weight goes down and it just it chases the weight. And once it hits, it still keep moving just very slowly. Like nose up, just kind of move on. Same thing with a lot of worms. I've tested a bunch. They're supposed to stand up. A lot of them go plum, right on their side. And then you'll get a few that hit the side and then they slowly rise. Mag trick worms are really good one to look at.
On a beaver, so here's the way I do it. So like on the Reaction Innovations beaver, if I burn the beaver in and it's not spinning, if it's flat, then I know that I'm getting a good spiral, a good fall on it. If I'm reeling it in and it's twisting, that's trash on the fall. You're not going to get hardly any bites on the fall if you're reeling it in and that beaver's flopping or anything. I want that beaver flat, reeling back in toward. Same with the BFE, same with any flipping bait. I want that bait when I reel it back in, not only to reduce line twist, but that way I'm getting a true glide or a true fall on it when I flip it.
That's a pro tip. That's something I've never heard of. I'm glad you put that on here. It's a Baitman exclusive. I'm going to go check that out soon.
I mean,
now every time I go flipping, I'm reeling something spinning.
Rig something a little off center or anything like that, and it looks goofy as hell as it falls. But if you want like the true like two fall or more of a glide or a straight down fall, if you take it and reel that thing back in, and it's wonky, it's going to be wonky on the fall. And like if you're pitching a boat dock or something, that thing might be 3 foot off side of the boat dock by the time if you want a true fall.
Interesting. This is like tuning a crankbait. We're tuning beavers.
Yeah, 100%. And beavers, you get one fish off anyway because they unzip right up the middle.
I'll be honest. It doesn't matter almost what brand. I think the D-Bomb is probably the better one at holding up for more than one fish because it doesn't have a true center. It's got the ribs. But Sweet Beaver, the Berkeley one, the 6-cents one, every now and then you can get away with a different flipping hook to make them last, but it's really a one fish deal. And I've rigged them on a shaky head and caught a lot of fish, especially this time of year. Smallmouth doesn't hurt them as bad with a screw lock, but man, flipping hook, you're just going to tear them. And it is what it is. Here's some good questions here. I got to back up a little bit. Someone asked about a Carolina rig. I know that's Chris Flay. Chris wants to Pangrac. Are you sizing up your spinning setup after talking? Or no, this one says, are you sizing up your spinning setup after talking to Littner?
Yeah, I should have 100% of Rayburn been fishing that on a bait caster. What I didn't really mention to Littner, I think I talked to him off the air. I was talking to him about how I had like a one between 8 and 10 on Rayburn, like a true Rayburn giant. Like there's like big fish, and then there's ones where you're like, that was like you get maybe 5 opportunities in a lifetime of tournament fishing for a fish that size. And so far in my life, I'm like 1 for 2 on that, and now I'm 1 for 3. Like I was one of those true Rayburn giants, and I had 14-pound test, medium heavy, 7.4 rod. I was like, I visibly was like, okay, I need to beef this stuff up. So I went with 14. I got a Gamakatsu round bed and put my own keeper on it, shrink wrap my own keeper, so it was still a medium wire, but it was a little bit beefier, so I could lean into it. Went with 16-pound sunline instead of the 10, 7.4 medium heavy, went up to the 3,000 reel, so I'd take in more, and it freaking happened. I mean, I got it the donk, and I got it out of the cover, I got it through the jump. I'm like telling my co-angler, it's mine, and it pops off. And the problem was when it jumped, I think I talked about it on BTL, it whale jumped. So it wasn't like the Bassmaster logo jump. Like when you get one on a finesse bait and it Bassmaster logo jumps, it's yours because it's a thin wire hook. As long as you're not an idiot and don't break it off or get it stuck in something, it cannot come off. Like it's hooked and it's trying to throw it, and if you cannot lose that fish unless
Right.
you're an idiot, or it's your fault, right? But that
Yeah.
fish whale jumped with its mouth closed, so it never. I mean, I never penetrated its mouth with the hook,
It just
so I
had the bait.
wasn't. It just had the bait, or I just barely had it. So as soon as I mean, I fought it for like 45 seconds to a minute. So as soon as it got down there, and I finally felt a little, is what probably when it opened its mouth, shook it, and popped free. So I was talked to Littner because I know that he's like, dude, no, you should have had like 20-pound test, flipping hook, still throw a drop shot and just jack its ass as soon as you catch it. Like that fish would have eaten that too. I just wasn't able to give it enough. There was no power behind it. Like even when I'm reeling into it on that long cast out there, brush pile 25 foot.
Well, so was that clear? So did you see it on the scope, or because I missed this episode, or did you visually see this fish?
No, I cast it. It was just cast to a brush pile in 25 foot.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like drop shotting on Rayburn a lot.
I wish I was good at the drop shot. I mean, I've caught fish. Our lake was good enough years ago, dude. They'd quit biting the big worm and all that stuff, and the jig and the spoon. You could go robo worm, see them on your 2D, not live scope, not down in 2D them. Drop it down there, and you'd watch your weight and your bow, and all of a sudden on the 2D, that line would start moving up, and thunk. That's how I caught them. I liked it, but as far as like doing what you're doing, I don't do that. Probably should. Here's a good question from Dalton. Got to know, this is the question of the night. All right, Dalton, if Matt was a Carolina rig, how long would his leader be?
I wouldn't even have a leader.
I used to call it, I won a tournament this year on a Carolina rig, and I used to call it the quitting rig, because if I busted out, I feel like quitting.
You want to talk about looking at stuff in a pool? Go throw a Carolina rig in a pool. You'll never freaking throw one again.
Yeah, it does nothing. Like,
No,
it's literally...
it's awful. The bait does not tantalizingly sit up there and quiver around, and the lizard's not like that. It literally just drudges through the freaking bottom with zero action.
How many times you got hung up on a Carolina rig and it's not the
None.
weight
I don't
or
throw
nothing?
it. I don't throw it.
That's true. Well, you get hung up on a Carolina rig and your leader breaks. It's not because your weight and all that were hung up. It's because your hook's dragging ass behind it, not really doing anything. It's not floating up in the brush, but it just gets hung on crap on the bottom because you're pulling it into something. It catches fish, but I don't like throwing it. Yeah, the smallmouth here liked it this spring.
Yeah, I could see it like in current smallmouth on gravel, but I just think there's so many more options. Biffle bug, mag shaky head, drop shot, Magnico.
You got these other guys, they're free rigging or whatever kind of rig, Japanese rigging. I get a lot of people ask me about the free rig. It must work. It
Dude,
just
I
like
drew
Texas...
one of those guys last year.
Really? Did he catch him?
Yeah, beat my ass on Douglas on it.
No shit.
He knew like 4 American words.
Really?
And he was 19, and I think he was practicing with Coda, or one of the legend Japanese guys, and he gets in, and I got enough to where I was like, hey, I know Marizo, and he's like, Marizo, and then we go, and it occurs like I was Ned rigging rock veins for spawning fish and catching a bunch. And it occurred to me that like I hadn't moved in like 8 minutes, and he'd been fishing the whole 8 minutes and had not made a cast. And he was inching this thing. And I like look back, and he's got it on like a bait caster with one of those real thin, the reels that doesn't hold much line.
Yeah, bait finesse.
Yeah. And his line is metered line. So it's like pink, chartreuse, brown, clear. Pink, chartreuse, brown, clear. And he gets it, he catches one. It's like a 3-pound smallmouth. He's just inching this thing along. And then when he re-rigs it, it takes him like 10 minutes to re-rig it. And it's like he has to cut his hook, and the bait's like on the hook, but he's got like a swivel, and then the weight is this shape that I've never seen. It's like an in-fisherman style weight, sliding up and down his line. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. And he had like 3 for almost 9.
Wow. Douglas has a lot of fish, and it's just catching quality fish in Douglas, I think, the deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
He caught him that day.
it's a good spring lake. You know, the flat side homemade guys love Douglas and Cherokee in the spring. Here's a good question from Kevin. Thanks for joining, Kevin. Matt, what are you looking forward to the most on next year's Open schedule?
Obviously Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma. I mean, there's going to be a lot of Okies that have fished it, but it's not a stop that 95% of the guys in that tournament have ever been to, and it's a freaking awesome lake. And I've spent a lot of time out there, and I mean, I'm not even remotely close to one of the best on Eufaula, but I'm very comfortable on it, and I really like it. And it'll fish. I mean, it'll swallow up 200 boats. Like, you won't even know hardly anyone else is out there.
Yeah, I think that's kind of key for the Opens because
Yeah.
unlike the elites that only have 100 boats or 110, I don't even know what they're at now. Heck, it may be 85. The Opens, man, there's a lot of guys fishing for a chance. You got some guys that are going to cherry pick. I don't know about next year, the cherry picking the way that the schedule's set up. You pretty much, if you're going to want to try to fish for the elites, you've got to fish them all. You can't just fish a division.
And there is a bunch of guys signed up for all of them. Like a bunch.
I've heard rumors. I'm not the rumor guy. I'll leave that to BTL and other people. But I know there's quite a few guys from other tours that are going to swing. Some guys are going to fish both. I think Poche said he's going to fish MLF and the Opens. I hope his wife loves him. Yeah, that's what I mean. So, dude, that's a lot of time gone from home.
Yeah.
But Poche's a good fisherman. He should be all right.
But yeah, so looking forward to, obviously you follow, love Thousand Islands out of Waddington is going to change things. I like to fish the river. So when it was out of Clayton, I like the fact that almost everyone tried to go out into the lake, but I love the smallmouth up there. And then Lake of the Ozarks. I'm really looking forward to Lake of the Ozarks too. So those are probably the top three.
I like the Ozarks. One, it's nice on the eyes. It kind of can fish big. You can do a lot of different things. I like how it lays out. And my buddy, he's fished there several times. My fishing partner, he said, dude, it actually fishes like Kentucky Lake, other than just a little bit different in the fall and spring. He said it's kind of offshore. You can fish in between. He said it's laid out really good.
Yep.
Is there any place you're not looking forward to going to on the Opens? Like you're like, all right, this is the
no.
I gotta hunker
So that's
down
the thing I've learned. So like you learn in the Opens when you're fishing for the points, and what I've done the last 3 years is it's like baseball, man, where you have to realize that game one is just as important as game 164. Right. So you can't really go into any you can't write any off because you're like always one bad event away from being out of it. So you have to find something that you can work with at every single place you go to. So you go into a place like, oh, this one sucks. Like, you're already behind the 8 ball on that. So you have to stay positive.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed about you, what little you do post on social media, and of course what you talk about on BTL, you always keep a pretty positive attitude. I mean, all it takes, you can be consistent. It's hard to have a just bad tournament. But you can finish in that 40s, 50s range and then bust a top 5 and really put yourself in a good position or a win. And you kind of got to keep that in the back of your mind.
I averaged it out. So 2020, 21, and 22, I fished 22 opens, like 9 this year, 9 this year, 9 the previous year, 4 the previous year before that. And I just wanted to see, because I was doing the math on what I thought it would take to finish in the top 9 based on the last 3 years and stuff. And I've averaged a 58th place finish out of 203 boats over the last 20, 22, or 24 opens.
That's in the top 25% of the field, roughly. I mean, most people would take that. Like, if you had told me today, Baitman, you can go finish in the top 25% of all the tournaments you fish, I'd be like, dude, absolutely, I'd take that.
But I mean, over that time, I've only fished on the final day twice. You know, that's the sacrifice that you're taking. You're putting yourself out of the running to win a lot to up your consistency.
So is your goal next year? I know you want to make the elites, but how is it important for Matt to cash a check? Well, you got 9 tournaments. Your expenses are going to be much more higher.
Yeah, I would take 0 checks and make the Elite Series and finish 41st in every single one in a heartbeat.
Really?
It's a battle. It's like I would lose the battle and win the war.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. if Tennessee lost every football game and beat Alabama, I'd be happy. Which this year we beat Alabama and won almost every game, so
Yeah.
it works out like that too sometimes. But yeah, I mean it's a crazy deal. Do you feel like this year there's going to be a lot of fatigue on the Open where guys fish 4, 5, 6 events? They look at the checkbook, they look at the standings, go, it's just not feasible. I got to drop out.
Yeah, that's the smart play. I mean, Hallman did it last year, and he's on the Elite Series now. He was like, hey, I was still in it in one of the divisions, so he didn't fish like 3 or 4 of them and focused on one. And, I mean, with them, like if they're doing 250 boats, which is what they say, and they're only doing a 200 boat or 200 point system, right? So 200, 199, 198. You finish 200 first and get 0 points. That's like not showing up for an Open.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's a forfeit, basically.
Yeah, and not basically, it is. You get 0 points. Like Austin Cranford, my buddy from Oklahoma, lit them up in the second half of the year. I don't know if you can pull up his stats or whatever, but like the last 6 events, I was like, how is this dude not like qualified for the Elite Series? Like he's cashing checks, he's making final days, he's weighing in 14 to 16. He's on a roll. Well, he finished like 200th and 180th in like 2 of the first 3 Opens, and I didn't realize that. He like top 10 and top 20 the rest, and he like finished 41st in one, I think, at Oneida. But like the last ones, just crazy good consistency. The most consistent angler in the Opens outside of Keith Poche still missed it by like over 200 points because of Austin Cranford, and still missed it just because he made a really bad decision at Cherokee. Made one bad decision all year.
Yeah, I'm going to look at his stats here. Total tournaments. If I can figure this out here, I'm looking. All right,
look at his last 6 Opens.
All right, so he finished 7th at Rayburn, 40th at Hartwell, 21st at Red River, 85th at Chesapeake, 41st, 65th. Yeah, 219.
That's really strong. I mean, Sokup made it in the overall at 6th and averaged 53rd.
Yeah, the 219 at Cherokee.
That really does you in.
Yeah, man. So that dude was really close. He
made one bad decision. He tried to go up the river and force largemouth, and that was it.
Yeah, I've been in Cherokee, and it will force you to make bad decisions. I fished a wild card there years ago when I probably had no business fishing it. I was really young, and I actually caught them really good in practice on a buzzbait on
Smallies.
Mix. Ooh. And they weren't on rock, they weren't on wood. I just made a cast down a bank, and it was just those mud kind of cutout style banks, and I'm like, and so I went to another one, got another one. So I was like, dude, this is the deal. Tournament time, nowhere. Couldn't find them. I was already lost anyway. That's the only thing I had. So I was like 20 years old. I was like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. But I've learned to. I didn't really take it that serious because I took this chick with me I was dating, and that's about all we need to know. But let's get some more questions, man. I've got a lot of them in here, some good questions. Critical Gravy, great name. He says, question, Matt, who got you into fishing? Who was your mentor? I don't think I've ever asked you that question.
It's kind of weird. So, like, my mom and dad fished, but they weren't
fishing people.
Yeah. So like they went to Canada every year. They actually went to like Canada on their honeymoon, but like they trolled spinner rigs for walleye. And my dad threw like his bass lure is a K&E pre-rigged night crawler with the 2 little gold hooks in it.
Yeah. And
he puts it on a weighted cork and casts it out and just slowly reels it. Like 0 tournaments, 0. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would have to say, like, I had a club, a bass club that was kind of like my whole mentor. So, like, with the Casting Kids deal, I won the national championship when I was 13. I like to fish. I've always been obsessed with fishing. I don't know why. I just liked it.
Dude, you won the Casting Kids national championship?
Yeah, that's how I got into this whole thing.
Dude, so, like,
you didn't know that?
No. Like, I've been to the, I want to say, what's the next one before the Classic?
The regional?
Yeah. So, long story short on this deal, I hate to interrupt. because I was really good at this deal. And I won like the state one twice.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the regional one year. I don't have a good year. I made it to the regional again the next year. But my dad had to have neck surgery. All right. He had a bone replaced.
Ooh.
Couldn't take me. So I had to forfeit. Well, literally like a week later, Menendez calls, or after the surgery, Menendez calls my dad, asks how he's doing, and he says, I'm good, but he told Mark Kevin had to forfeit the casting kids thing. Dude, I've got trophies and medals from all this stuff in my parents' house. And then it's like, Jerry, and my dad said, why didn't you call me? I would have drove him myself, I would have taken care of Kevin. And I was like, well, that just means I was probably destined to either lose or win.
What year was it? Do you have any idea what years it was?
It was like 97, 98.
I won in 98.
Really? How old are you?
38.
Yeah, that's it, man.
I was 13. It was in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah, I knew that because the Vols won the national title that year. So
we would have been at the same regional.
Yeah. Pretty wild, huh? I'll be honest, what really messed me up is I'd been using a bait caster since I was like 4 or 5. Well, probably about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And so you have to use the Zebco 33 and the rod's kind of fiberglass. Up close, it ain't a bad deal, but when you've got to make that overhand cast with that spinning, you got to really practice and know exactly how much line can come out.
No, it was all about the index finger. Baitman, you had to control it with the index finger. So I went down to the Holiday Inn. They had an atrium. I did the same thing. I got real close the year before. I realized what it was. So I got they used a 3/8 ounce power jig was what the official jig was, with the power craw trailer in it. And they always used pumpkin chartreuse tips, which I wanted the bait to look the same as I cast, 10, 20, 30 foot. So I did a 10 and 20 foot in my house to where I could have it identical in practice. But then for the 30 foot, I went and talked to my parents had me go because I was 13 years old, go talk to the manager of the Holiday Inn. And they let me every single day. I would go to the atrium of the Holiday Inn all winter, everything, and practice an hour a day. It was like less than a mile away. So I'd flip, pitch, and cast over an hour a day for like the whole year leading up to it. And then just like ran through it all.
Dude,
and won it.
Luckily, we had a concrete driveway my dad marked off with spray paint.
See, I would never throw on a concrete driveway because that would rub the jig on the cement and then it would weigh less. So I had to do like the muscle memory. So I always did it on carpet.
Dude, you're way too more advanced than me.
I was. I mean,
it's also probably why you're a better fisherman than me. But
that has nothing to do with fishing talent.
That's crazy. So, yeah, maybe I could have been there with you. I don't know if I'd won, but But
anyway, mentor-wise, so when I won the Nationals, Assumption Bass Club, who I qualified for at the regional at the Decatur Fishing Expo, got $1,000. A dude named John Schusler, who ran it, was like, hey, do you want to fish with us? You can't officially join, but you can. So I started fishing the tournaments when I was 14 years old and like kind of grew up on that. And then like one of my dad's buddies from work, John Ader, was there and he let me fish with him for a year. And then he like moved. And then Darren Gates, I still talk to Darren literally every single day of my life. He's like his second dad, best friend to me. And he like kind of took me under his wing when I was like 14, 15. And I fished until I went away to college with the Assumption Bass Club then. So that was like kind of my mentors.
I heard a lot of good stories about you from Joanne there at Mike's
Tackle World. That's how she knew me because I've been going in there since I was a little kid.
Have you been in there lately? Have you got to visit?
I go every single time that I go home. I go back and talk to either Joanne or her daughter.
Well, next time you go in there, tell her I'm sorry I hadn't been in. It's just been hectic. I need to go back in there. There's this wild rumor that they like closed down and they had to get on Facebook. Like we absolutely have not gone away. It's an amazing store, and if any of you guys are watching this, and I know guys watch my video, if you ever go in there and you're hunting something, always go to the backpacks. Because the way I was told from Joanne, and maybe you too, when they restocked it, if it got down to 3 or 4 baits,
they would put it up on the front.
Just put it up on the front.
Listen, it's worth it. If you're driving or traveling or anything, if you're within an hour and a half of Decatur, Illinois, it's worth the drive out of the way just to go check out Mike's. You might not even buy anything, but just like walk in and plan to spend 45 minutes to an hour at Mike's Tackle.
Yeah, I was in there like 3 hours and I didn't feel like I saw the whole thing.
I know.
I like went in, scooped it out. My son was with me. We went to Chicago that day. I actually left here at 3 in the morning, went to Chicago, and was back at 8. But I was like overwhelmed, and I'm OCD anyway because I work in tackle stores, and I'm
holy just piled on.
Yeah, I'm only 5'6" maybe, so I'm like, how in the world would I reach that? And I look over and she's got those little alligator things where you you
here you go.
Yeah, but she lit up when I was, I said, can I film a YouTube video? And she's like, oh yeah, sure,
So like, Joanne, I think the story with her, so she's from somewhere in Europe. And when she came over to America, knew zero English. You would never know that. She you wouldn't even know that.
But she was like, do you know Matt Pangrac? And I'm like, I know of Matt. He's a really good guy. And she told me he used to come in here when he was a kid, and I love him so much. I'm like, well, I feel like Matt would say I'm pretty good company. So, but anyway, let's see. I had some questions here. I don't write my stuff down like other people, and that's okay. I probably should do that. We just fly by our seat. Kevin asks, have you been studying Bugs Island?
That's an interesting one. So, yes, I mean, there's obviously the old school Lynn Dollar videos from Bugs Island.
Oh, yeah.
Those are legit. Like, it's the Bassmasters from Kerr Reservoir. And then, Randy Blockett with the perm and stuff. Like, he caught him back then. And from what I figured, it's a flood control lake. It should be high and in the bushes that time of the year. So I'm from Oklahoma. I don't have grass. I flip bushes, and the greatest thing ever is a creature bait, chartreuse tails, 3/8 ounce weight, and go frickin' flip that sucker in as many 5-foot bushes as you can and yank them out. So I'm hoping that's what it is.
I've never been on there. I don't know about the information rule for the opens, so
it's friggin' wide open.
Okay, well, I've never been on there, but I know it can be an amazing spinnerbait lake.
Yeah, probably the same thing when it's up around the bushes and you're just rolling a spinnerbait past it that time of year if there's shad spawns up in there.
Yeah, I know some guys that said if it's up and the shad get in the bushes, it will be the best spinnerbait.
Here's the thing about the opens, though. 250 boats beating the crap out of those bushes. Those bass by Thursday or Wednesday. I think that's a Wednesday to Friday event. So those bass by Wednesday, they're going to be in the middle of the bush going, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah. That's wild. Dude, Kentucky Lake, everyone was always like, I want to go fish the ledges. Go fish the ledges. Yeah, it's cool. We know how to fish them here. But it is very intimidating when you've got a 250 boat tournament and there's only 40 ledges that got bass on them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you run into people, conflicts. And
it's the same thing with bushes and stuff. Every bush is not created equal. I mean, that's one of the things why you see 100%. Jason Christie and Brad Hallman and all these guys that can catch them. They can figure out the types of bushes that they're in. I think that'll be an advantage once I get there, having flipped a lot of bushes in Oklahoma during high water on Keystone and Grand and Eufaula and Fort Gibson, is figuring out where the good ones are and, what they all have in common.
So Hellabass says he wants to challenge you to an old school casting kids competition.
Any amount of cash, anytime you bring it, as long as it's the Zebco 33 and 10, 20, and 30 feet, I will hold my own on that.
I feel like I should show up just to officiate that to make sure there's no funny business, because I know Hellabass, there will be some funny business.
Hey, you know who else won the national championship who's in the industry? Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment?
Yeah.
He might have won it twice.
Wow. Yeah, I actually don't know Johnny. I like his content. I think he's pretty good on the content deal. Very informational. I did not know that. I knew at one time he tried to start a TV show or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
But yeah, he's a casting kid champ.
Well, I guess I just fell off the wrong bus on that deal. Here I am making videos.
No, you're kind of open-ended because you still have the what could have been deal.
Yeah, well.
I mean, you might have sent me home. I think it only took 130 points to get me through to the nationals, and we might have been in the same region.
Yeah. There was another. It wasn't Bass. There's some other people that had something too. I didn't want to. I just remember back in the day. I'll find the photo. I got it at home. Like I'm here at the state and I have a jersey, not a real jersey, like the button up and monogrammed in
Mm-hmm.
Bear Creek Boatworks Hydrosport logo. They gave me like $150 for expenses, and I was in that deal and won it, and I felt awesome. I was like, man, check me out. I'm sponsored. You know, I didn't even have a Hydrosport boat. I had my dad's RT, whatever it was, 16-footer, brown and nasty with that 115 tall and black Mercury on it, because that's all we could afford. But I enjoyed that. But there, you know what? There's not a lot of stuff. As much as there's high school fishing and college fishing, maybe I'm missing something. But there's not a lot for that upcoming 10 to 14-year-old like that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's junior fishing, but that's why I've always been really passionate about the grassroots stuff, the Bass Nation stuff, the youth programs like that. Like, I mean, that was literally a deal where a dude who volunteered for a bass club to run the casting contest that Bassmaster
Mm-hmm.
sponsored with Wrangler and Plano and Zebco and
Mm-hmm.
all that. Like that literally is the reason why I was in the industry. Like it worked like it was supposed to. That's probably also why I'm very passionate and very loyal to Bassmaster, BASS, Bass Angler Sportsman Society, and the brand.
Right. Yeah, I mean, FLW, it's in my hometown. Now MLF. Going to be honest here, Matt, it feels different. And I don't mean that is anything anti Boyd Duckett or anything. It just feels different because so many of those guys I grew up, I won't say mentored me, but they're always around in those Tuesday night tournaments, tournament directors, your Ron Lappins, all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
They grew up with me. Now they're all retired. There's some good tournament directors still there, but it just feels different. One of them just passed away. Dan Grimes. Dan was one of the original guys. He just passed away from cancer. Great guy. But I've always been loyal to Bass too because of the casting kids and
Mm-hmm.
I went to the first classic. But every time that magazine come out, I don't care if my dad was home when the mail arrived or if he just got off working 16 hours overtime. He pulled out his Bassmaster magazine and he read it front to cover, and then he would hand it to me. He said, "Be sure to read that and read that." And that's kind of how I started following. Of course, you had Mark, his family friend, and he's
Mm-hmm.
fishing it. And I remember him winning, and it felt cool to know somebody that won a Bassmaster tournament. And yeah, so that's my little high horse on that. Let's see here. We got some more questions. No, we did. All right, here's one. Baitman TV. Here's a question for Matt. Will you put in more time with the big bait in 2023? You gonna go Ben Milliken on him?
No, so big bait to me is Chad Shad 178, jointed claw 178, like uh, side swimmer, like the small one, like stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's 6.5, 7 inches, 2 ounce max that still has drawing power, but fish actually eat instead of follow. Like I actually talked with Milliken about it, and I was like, dude, like we've kind of proven over the last couple of years in the opens that you can't weigh in followers.
Right.
So I definitely need I definitely need to pick up that bait more when the opportunity presents itself and it's not risky.
Right.
Uh, I got 12 and a half, 13 pounds. I'm catching 2.5 pounds. Why would I not pick up a Chad Shed? Why would I not pick up an 8-inch mag draft and start covering some water? Like I'm going to weigh in 12 and a half anyway, most likely. But yeah, that is definitely on the list for 2023 is to play with those mid-size, those smaller glides and swim baits a lot more.
That's perfectly honestly Matt Robertson. I've had him on here. We're buddies. He's really comfortable with that bigger glide. Me, I like about a 6 to 7 inch. Anything bigger than that, I do feel a little bit intimidated at because one, I haven't got as many bites, and two, I just feel like part of the tournament fisherman guy in me. If I'm looking to catch 5 fish, I feel more comfortable catching a fish on that smaller version. And I know there's many people in the chat that can relate to that. It's very intimidating to lay a bait out and go, damn, I could fillet this thing.
Yeah.
Versus one that you go, oh yeah, you know,
like anything, like in my opinion, in tournament settings, while you're trying to qualify for, I'm not talking about like, hey, you're going for it, but like you still need fish. Like anything bigger than a negotiator is playing with fire, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so there's also this part. Yes, you can get that big bite, but landing that big bite, whether it's a 10-pounder on a drop shot or a 10-pounder on a 10-inch glide, that's a whole different story. Yeah. The last thing I would want to do is spend 2 hours going for a big bite, get it, knowing that's
and then dump it right at the side of the boat.
Yeah, knowing that might be the only bite I get.
Yep.
Let's talk about the industry a little bit. You know, we're post-COVID now, so they say. I've heard some guys say that the industry is down quite a bit, you know, in sales numbers. Do you think that's a real thing? Do you think so many people got out going fishing, new fishermen, tackle sales, rods and reels blew up, and now we got a new year, and you got companies going, oh, we're down 20, 30, 50%. You know, personally, I know it's out there. I know stores are running more sales than ever. They've got more product. And companies got behind because, you know, factories overseas, they were behind. They couldn't ship. And when they can ship, now everybody's sitting on a bunch of stuff. Do you feel like there is a post-COVID hangover in the fishing industry?
I don't know whether it's like a pre-recession hangover or post-COVID hangover, but I know that you had absolute record sales and demand for product, and a record number of people who went out and fished and enjoyed the outdoors during COVID, right? So if you're a company, and like these people are way smarter than me and they understand how it works, but if you look at what it was like 2018, 2019, it was a steady climb, but it wasn't anything crazy. And then it exploded in 20, which was hindered a little bit due to supply chains and supply and demand and that. But are you wanting to compare what's happening now to what it was in 2020 when it was an abnormal, you know, outside the standard deviation spike? Or do you want to go back to 18 or 19 when the numbers were lower? So if you take out that weird COVID stuff and go back, there's still a slow climb that we might see, you know, kind of slowing down now just because of inflation and what's going on. But I think it looks a lot worse than it actually is because of that massive spike in outdoors and people fishing and people getting on the water in 20. And if you're a company, yeah, you obviously want to keep growing, but I think it's unrealistic to grow at that rate. People I've talked to in the industry understand that too, that own bait companies, that represent bait companies, and say, listen, we have to temper our expectations. Like, we're not growing from 20 and 21 and go back to what it was kind of pre-COVID, work from there, and then work through kind of the economic challenges. And there's still some supply chain demands. So a lot of like the downturn that you're also seeing are people who ordered all this stuff during COVID, during the year immediately after COVID. It finally came in and then it was available and now they're sitting on it. So like they're like, dude, we've got 150 packs of this hooks and 95 of these crankbaits. So it might seem like they're not ordering them from the companies. They're still selling them. It's just their stuff actually came in.
Yeah, and then, of course, the industry, it's still trying to revolve. Every year we got companies got new products and new baits, and when you've been waiting on stuff and the new stuff hits, 3 months later, oh, by the way, we got these new baits. You're like, man, I can't, you know, I haven't even turned these other stuff. It's kind of wild, though. I kind of agree with Hellabass. He said sales are regressing to the mean. So if in that COVID spike, you went up 50%, and then this year, all of a sudden, you went down, you're like, man, our sales are down across the board 40%. Really? It's not that bad. You know, I talked to Menendez about this, too, and you know, that's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of spike. I don't know if we'll ever see a spike like that again where people are basically told, hey, the best thing you can do to avoid getting sick is go outside and go fishing. And that's what a lot of people did. That, good or bad, a lot of people didn't know how to fish, so they went and bought stuff. They got on social media. They listened to people on YouTube, good, bad, medium, and they said, well, how do I make a drop shot? Or how do I throw a top water, rig a bait caster? Those videos blew up because there's more people searching that. And everyone tries to replicate. And that's kind of how I feel about it.
No, I agree.
I mean, there's a lot of influencers out there now, and however you want to call it. I don't really consider myself an influencer. I'm just a dude who talks about.
Yeah, you're an influencer.
All right,
look, yeah, I mean,
I'm wearing a 6 inch shirt. I would consider you a professional fisherman /
I'm a weird hybrid deal. I'm really close to being a professional fisherman, but I'm not. I'm a weird hybrid deal, which I'm not afraid to say.
But Bill Dance was a hybrid. He was a professional.
Yeah, Bill Dance also has Angler of the Years and was one of the best tournament fishermen of his time. I do have to address Critical Gravy says, I absolutely hate to be this guy, but Matt, for the love of God, see a dermatologist for the spot on your nose. Go back and look at the replay for BTL. Did not have that spot 2 days ago. That's 100% just a pimple on the end of my nose. That is not a sun spot.
I'm gonna be honest. I saw the question and I skipped over it because I didn't want to be that guy that asked about.
No, that is 100%. That was one of those where I woke up and I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? I'm 38 years old."
Here's a great question. This is a bait question, no pimple question. Gravy makes some great questions. He's always welcome in the stream.
I know.
William says, Matt, what absolute bait do you wish you could have? Obsolete bait. Do you wish you could have a supply of? BOGO baits?
Obsolete BOGO. I'm gonna go. Okay, probably the most effective bite getting bait that they don't make that I'm aware of now was a 4-inch black blue tail power lizard.
They do not make the mini power lizard anymore.
The mini power lizard, you could rig it however the hell you wanted to, and you would get bites on it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's a demand, or a lot of guys like that. They made a mini zoom lizard, and Zoom probably made it because Berkeley made one.
Do they not make the little zoom lizard anymore?
I've seen them, but man, it's kind of like
dude,
you
that
don't see
black
them stocked.
Blue tail power lizard. Sometimes you get packs, and the tails would all be separated, and you'd be like, "Son of a gun," because it was the yellow packaging where you couldn't see in, but it had the little diamond on the back of it. That was just a killer little bass catching bait. That and the, I don't know. You could go with, but I have stocks of those. The bait that I wish I had 50 of those little lizards.
That's wild. What was really popular, Mr. Twister still makes the lizard that's got the dots on them. And there's a lot of guys that still throw the black with the chartreuse dots or the white dots lizard, especially around spawn, marked up like a little salamander. A lot of people don't realize this. It's funny you talked about the tails coming off. The original Berkeley power bait stuff, they were glued on. The tails were glued on. That's why if they sat in the package too long and got dried out, they'd fall apart.
100%. Then also more of a sexy bait. Reaction Innovation Squeaky Dolphin. If I had a half dozen Reaction Innovation Squeaky Dolphins, I'd be set for life.
Like this guy?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. This one's nice.
You ever need to pay a house mortgage, just put that on eBay.
Dude, I saw one the other day, and I was like, damn, this is pretty affordable. It's at $71. And before the day was over, it was at $140. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. The good thing about a buzzbait, unless you're a doofus casting to the tree, which I have been known to do, and you throw it on 55, 65-pound braid, you're not going to lose it.
My last one, a blue cat, absolutely came unglued on it and broke both blades off on the bite.
Yeah, so
a freaking blue cat on a buzzbait. Have you showed that buzzbait to show people what was special about it? So look at the head of the Squeaky Dolphin.
It's got this little brass nipple on it, as I'll call it.
Yeah. So if you wanted to, you can push the wire in, and it's pretty sturdy wire.
Yep.
So where it clicks, but then the key there was the rivet in the middle of the blade. And that was also the bait's downfall, because that rivet would wear out and you would make a cast and all your components would just fly off and you would end up with just the wire and the skirt, and there was nothing you could do about it because you couldn't fix it. But it was it worked the best right before it broke.
Like when it was the wheels were about to fall off, it was making lots of racket and doing
the worst thing you could think was, damn, this thing sounds amazing, because you've got about 50 casts with it.
Yeah, I've got some I like a war eagle buzzbait. Believe it or not, I like that big blade, and you can really slow it down. That's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Early spring when the water hits 55, throw that. But they don't hold up very well. You catch 5, 6, 10 fish, and it's getting bent out, and then it just the wire's so messed up you can't get it to run right. But dude, that squeaky dolphin has a ridiculous cult following, and they weren't made in the masses as say like the Vixen was and all that other stuff. You know, Reaction had squeaky dolphin. They had a balsa crank, the method crank. They had a great shaky head. I loved it. It's called the screwed up jig head. If you find those, you let me know. It was the first shaky head I used, but it had a really sharp freaking hook in it.
See, I don't use this. I don't use a screw lock on my shaky head.
Yeah, I've been told I'm missing the boat by not just rigging it up there and pulling it over. Again, I mean,
personal preference.
Yeah. Let's see. Somebody asked a good question just a second ago, and I missed it. Okay. Ask Matt to describe Dean Rojas Wigglewort collection.
Ridiculous.
Is it really? A guy that throws a frog all the time's got a Wigglewort collection? The most overrated bait of all time?
He doesn't even have a Wigglewort collection. He has, like, the Wigglewort box, and then he replaces it with the Norman, Oklahoma 6-pack Wigglewort boxes. So, like, if he needs a Phantom Green, he goes and gets the box of Phantom Greens that have never been opened, takes his pocket knife, breaks the seal, and pulls out a brand new Phantom Green, if that makes any sense.
That makes total sense.
That's the best way I could describe his Wigglewort collection.
I never knew that about Rojas, so he's, like, big into that thing.
He got big into it early Grand Classics, like that 2013 Classic and stuff like that. He's been big into it beforehand, but I mean, and then he ran into someone who like did really good custom painting, so he actually sent a batch to Japan. Couldn't find America, wasn't good enough. He sent a batch of discontinued Wiggleworts to Japan to get custom painted.
Wow. That's that's something I never knew about Rojas. I didn't even know a dude owned a crankbait.
I've got like 5 of them.
Yeah, dude. I've got a few.
No, not Wigglewort. 5 of Rojas's Japan ones. He gave me like a full set. Yeah, a purple, a blue, and a red. And then one time he needed a bottle of Jack, and it was like 11 at night. And I said, I will go get you a bag of ice and a bottle of Jack if you let me pick one Wigglewort out of your box. And he was feeling good, so he said okay.
Really?
He said okay, and that is how I came to own my Ghost Green Wigglewort. That's a true story.
That's wild.
I picked it, and he goes, "Oh, Panger, you're gonna pick that one?" And I said, "You're damn straight." I said, "That's why I just went and got that."
Yeah, that's good to know. I'm gonna put that notes on my phone when contacting Rojas about being on the show. Offer him XYZ from Pangrac.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's getting about that time for the wart, you know. If dude, I like the rock crawler straight up. I mean, I can find them really easy. They run good.
Yeah, rock crawler.
I catch a lot of fish. But again, we've talked about this on another stream. There's a time and a place in select lakes in the country. If you're not throwing a Wigglewort, you're probably going to get beat by it.
Yep.
Let's see here. See if we got some more questions. We got about 25 minutes in here. Matt, what's the coldest water temperature you fished at top water and actually had some good bites?
At 10 killer one time, I caught him at 52 degrees on top. It was the first time that I ever caught him on a plopper. I caught him on a whopper plopper at 52. In the spring, nonetheless, not even the fall.
Yeah, I would say in the spring, 55, 56 is the coldest I have. But I can see catching them on 52. I mean, especially if you've had the water's been in the 40s, low 40s, and you have 2 or 3
There's a warming trend.
Good warming trend. Yep. Those bass, they're going to start to get active.
Fish and chips, I have caught fish on a buzzbait in low 50s. I don't remember what it was. I was fishing with Fred in those deals, and we caught them good on a buzzbait, and I remember it was low 50s there. Like, it was super cold, like late into the fall, and just toot, 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 toot. And it was one of those deals where we didn't get many, but when you got one, it was a good one. And one of those where they'd roll on it and then wallow when you hooked them. Like it wasn't like a screaming buzzbait bite where they are angry at it.
All right, so I'll ask you this. Speaking of the opens, you kind of said something before the stream about some new rule changes or anything. So you're going to talk about on BTL. I'm not going to ruin BTL. What's the deal with that? Is there's new rules or these rules that were overlooked and people just forgot about?
So tomorrow on BTL, I'm going to do that. I've done that show one other time of like Elite Series and FLW things that are on the rule books that no one ever knows about.
Right.
Before the stream, getting ready for your show, I ended up going through the rules for the Opens, and I'd heard some stuff. So the biggest change this year is 25 to 26 days off limits before each event, to where you cannot be on the water for like 25 to 30 days. It varies each one. They just came out with a list of what the days are, but it's only 5 days off limits info. So if like the tournament starts on a Thursday, then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can't get any information, which I think is weird. I've never heard of a tournament deal where you physically can't be on the body of water, but you could still gather information. Usually that like coincides with each other. But that's the deal for this year. So that's probably that's the biggest rule change.
Yeah, that's kind of odd, where you can text your buddy or text a buddy,
right?
However you want to say it, but you can't be on the water. Usually they.
But you could do that this year. You could do that before. Everyone's like, "Oh, guys are going to have guys practicing for them and all that." I'm like, "Have you not seen? It's been like 3 days before. Like, you could have all of your buddies practicing for you on Sunday and telling you where they are, and then Monday it's off limits. Like, it's that doesn't bother me at all."
Yeah, right.
Like, just I mean, that actually changed. You see what I mean? Like, for the last 10 years, you could have every extended family member out there freaking fishing for you on Sunday, giving you waypoints.
Right.
But no one ever mentioned that. But now, just because it's 5 days off limits, well, I'm going to have my guy out there 6 days before. Okay, good luck with that. Right. See how that works out.
Yeah, I do. I still always say it's always hard to catch another man's fish. I don't care if you're filming YouTube vids or if you're fishing opens or elites. Information is a good thing, but you got to kind of dissect what you're getting, and you still have to fish your way eventually. Like, dude, I'm not going to go out there and catch your top water fish or your flipping fish, because that's, I love top water, but, me and flipping don't get along very well. So if you're like, dude, it's the best flipping bite in the world, you got to do this and that, I'm just going to be like, oh, shit, I'm not comfortable with that. But if you said, hey, it's an amazing flat side crankbait bite, I'd be like, oh, yeah, we're going to do all right. But I think, we've had some local guys here try. Robertson come up through the opens. Mark's fished opens before. Dan Moorhead, I think Dan Moorhead won an open back in the day. Or
dude, that's
they weren't
really
yeah, I'd like to get Dan on here. I hadn't seen him so.
Wasn't he the Snickers guy for a long time?
Well, maybe Dan. He had this deal with that Gimme Dat clothing company years ago, and then his daughter grew up and his son grew up, got into fishing and trap shooting. So he's the trap shooting coach at McCracken County High School, which is Paducah, and does a tremendous job. And I think he just kind of got out of fishing, being a family man, a dad, totally respect it. But Moorhead, he won. Let's see, he's won an FLW event, he's won a bass event, he won FLW Angler of the Year, he's won 2 Rayovac String Championships.
1.5 million in earnings.
Yes.
14 cup appearances.
Yep.
That's impressive. Yeah, I always remember he was always a big Evinrude dude.
Yes, huge Evinrude Ranger guy, never strayed.
Why did I think that he was a Snickers guy? I remember the Kettle brand chips. He was that for a while.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, he was the second angler ever on a box of Wheaties.
He was on the Wheaties.
He was.
I'm looking up his pictures. Why? I swear he was a Snickers. Was I maybe thinking of Greg Pugh?
Maybe. Greg Pugh was Snickers.
He was a Snickers guy. I thought Dan Moorhead was.
Was he Land O'Lakes?
I think he was Land O'Lakes too.
Yeah. You had Terry Bolton was Land O'Lakes and Yamaha and something else. But I want to think maybe Moorhead was a Land O'Lakes guy too. I kind of miss that stuff though. We don't have everyone's got their own custom wrap. I think FLW had something back in the day where they had the teams. You know, you had the Castrol team, the Wheaties team.
I liked it. My favorite was Alvin Shaw.
Guys.
Alvin Shaw and the Cheez-It team.
Yeah.
Team Cheez-It. I just wish that commercial was up so when Charlie Evans said something, he could just be like, I woke up feeling the cheesiest on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. You had Jim Tutt was a guy. He ran a Kellogg's Frosted Flakes boat, I believe.
Yep.
Dude, Tutt's, I learned a lot of stuff from him because he come in the tackle shop when I was young. And I didn't even know who he was. And the guy I was working with, he's like, man, this dude's freaking good grass fisherman. Mm-hmm. And so he told me about punching and told me about a wacky rig and all kinds of stuff. And I remember watching him in this tournament at Okeechobee, and he had the jump hook set. Like, he literally would jump and set the hook and pin them, get them right in. So I always call it the Jim Tutt jump. Jim Light says Chris Bumgardner was Snickers.
Yeah.
I remember Bumgardner qualifying for the Classic in North Carolina, and he was wearing his Snickers stuff. That was the year Takahiro won. And actually, Bumgardner was like a pretty big favorite in that, if I remember right.
There he is right there.
Yes, sir.
That's Bumgardner. Snickers Feast.
What do you think about Nixon fishing the Lake Series?
That's awesome.
Dude, I love the General.
It's freaking awesome.
I would not be surprised for him to make some final day cuts. Like, he's still got it.
Oh, I'm not
Dude,
surprised.
He just finished 20th at Rayburn.
I expect him to. I fully expect him to make multiple cuts in Classics.
I would love to see him make the Classic. I know he's kind of talked about retiring or whatnot. Why not go out with bass? And I've seen people say it's not fair. He used the Legends rule. Dude's a freaking legend.
That is fair.
If Larry Nixon wants to come, he's not bumping anybody else out of a spot. He's got the Legends deal for a reason. You put the General in there.
That's what I do. So here's what I hope happens. I hope Larry, who, if you want to look at anglers' longevity and success on the water, I know Rick has won in Florida twice and has, never believed that your best days are behind you. Nothing against Rick, 4-time Angler of the Year, all-time wins, 32 Classics. But if you want to look at anglers consistently performing for a duration of time, there is no equal to Larry Nixon. He has not slowed down. He's averaged 10.4 tournaments a year since 1974.
Yeah.
And he's made 41 championships.
Dude, he's freaking the man. Nicest guy ever. So, long story short, do you remember the old Bass University before Iaconelli and Gluzik got involved?
I remember hearing about it. That was before.
So they would travel out to little expo centers and stuff. So they did one in Paducah. I'm working for Mike Otten at the time, and he's doing a seminar. It was like him, Larry Nixon, a couple other guys that might have been open pros, maybe like Mike Del Visco or something like that. And anyway, so Mike says, dude, I need you to do me a huge favor. I said, what? He goes, can you and your dad go pick Larry Nixon up at the airport? And I'm like, yes, yeah. We pick him up, in my dad's vehicle. We got to bring him to Paducah, to the expo center. They had a hotel there. And kind of didn't say anything for a while because I don't really get starstruck. But, dude, Larry Nixon sitting beside you, and finally I just said, well, you like Kentucky Lake? And he just, dude, he kind of grinned, and he told me the whole deal on that 93 tournament, and I learned about a jerkbait. And, dude, every time he would talk about a spot, I'm like, yeah, I fish there. And, dude, he was telling me the juice on everything, telling me what pound line he was throwing a rogue on and this and that. And finally my dad's like, yeah, I like to fish a worm. And Larry's like, oh, you like to fish a worm? Well, let me tell you about that. So they just had their whole – and I was like, dude, this is awesome. And,
yeah, that's cool.
I haven't seen him since then. But that was just one of those moments when you're younger. That's the kind of stuff that keeps you involved.
I got to give him his green jacket at the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame ceremony last year.
Dude, that's badass.
Like I was just randomly scheduled, and I was like, hello, Mr. Nixon, sir. I'm going to hand you this jacket, sir.
Yeah. how do you? So, all right, here's a question I've never asked, and I'm good friends with Pete. How do you get a ticket? How do you get an invite to go to the Hall of
You
Fame
just go.
ceremony?
You sign up and go.
Oh shit, I didn't know that. I thought I had to be somebody special.
No,
Am
you
I
can get a
just
freaking
rolling?
ticket and go. Like, yeah, like I wasn't able to go this year because of the opens, but you could take the wife. You can go. I mean, it's open to the public. Yeah, like I was talking to someone last year there, and I was like, "Oh, why are you here?" and stuff. He's like, "I'm just a fan of the sport." I'm like, "Really?"
Well, dude, I'm
Yeah,
game. They have some
yeah,
awesome auctions, by the way, to raise money for that thing.
100%.
Let's
I got
see.
so far behind trying to fish the opens this year. I did not. I didn't do as much as I should have.
If you ever need a backup for BTL, as long as I'm not at work, it may definitely not be as exciting, but we can definitely get your sponsor some bait representation on BTL.
Uh,
I'm going to tell you right now, Pangrac. We talked about it in text, and the guys in chat. I am planning on doing the 24-hour stream challenge, so I'm going to have to get a list of people that can buzz in once an hour so I don't fall asleep. Because if it gets to me pulling out lipless baits and jigs and talking about
Dude,
baits
you
and
could totally
boxes,
do it. So I think when Mark and I were actually looking into it, I think you're logistically going to run into some bandwidth issues on your computer as far as constantly streaming without it eventually locking up. I think you're going to have to restart your stream every 4 hours because I think there's a 4 hour max possibly on like live streaming through YouTube.
all right.
Um,
So should I make myself every 4 hours? I get at least a 10, 15 minute technical break.
I don't know. I don't
And
know.
here's the
There's a
deal:
lot to do.
after midnight till like 5 a.m., 6, 7 a.m., there ain't gonna be nobody that's gonna answer Baitman. They're either gonna be hammered drunk and can't
Yeah, no,
use.
there's a shocking amount of people that are on very late at night.
So I've done this thing where I'll do like Sunday late night with Baitman, and I'll stream you like 10 o'clock, and dude, I'll get like 150, 200 people.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
and I think
that's
a lot of
weird.
those people are just cruising YouTube videos, YouTube fishing, and say, oh, this guy's streaming, I'll check him out. So,
Yeah.
uh, it's a good thing about the Larry Nixon. I remember someone telling me it's a big factor in Nixon returning is helping his hand Joey Fuentes, and that's his roommate, correct?
So who did I just have on that told me about this? I just had a guest on BTL. God, that's embarrassing. But he was like, dude, like Joey Cifuentes is like Larry Nixon's dude. Like when he went through his shoulder and all that stuff, like the reason Larry was able to come back was because Cifuentes was out there. And I don't know Joey personally or anything, but apparently, Joey made it fourth in the opens because Brian New won the open, so it dropped down. He got in. Um, and then Larry was there, which I think was a big reason for him jumping into the Rayburn Open. So he qualified as the Legends exemption because of his accolades. He went up to the top. He was active with Bass. So I don't know if he comes back if Cifuentes doesn't make the Elite Series. It's a really cool story. I need to really dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah. Have you had Larry on BTL lately?
He's been on in the past, but I don't think we've had him on in like we had him on right before the shoulder surgery stuff.
Yeah, I know you had Joey on. I try to I'll put it this way: if I'm working day shift, I can't
Have we
watch.
had Joey Cifuentes on?
I thought you did a long
Not
time
this
ago.
year. I haven't. Jeffries did probably.
Yeah, I would. I'll be honest. If I do the 24-hour deal, I'm gonna have to get Jeffries to join me. I don't know if
Oh
I
yeah,
can make
he'd
it.
be
I don't know
down.
if I can make it happen, but I'd like to kick it off. Because, dude, I like to pay my respects to the OGs, and Jeffries is the guy. Like,
He'd be in.
yeah. So I'm gonna get me a running list. If you think of people, my other deal was we talked about getting some small time bait companies to
Mm-hmm.
show off your stuff or lesser known. But all right, before we go, I'm gonna let you off the hook early. My wife just got home, so I'm probably gonna have to go tell my kids he's got to do his homework. What's coming
Bateman
up?
Jr.
Junior dude. So he's playing basketball,
Ooh.
and he's not very tall, but he scored 4 points last night.
Does he
Uh,
get in there and throw the elbows?
he threw a drop kick.
Oh, he
But
drop kicked
he
someone.
drop kicked a guy. I said, dude, you can go. I said, like, he literally runs in a dead sprint toward the ball, and you just see feet go up. And I'm like, dude, you cannot do that. But he is not scared. Like, dude, his
Did he get lit up?
yeah, they didn't tee him up. They just like, you can't do that. It's a foul. But so he's small, and I said, Brooks, listen, you're not going to be able to shoot a lot. because you're small, you're going to get blocked. You have to be very fast on defense, and you have to learn to pass. I said, but if you're open, take the shot. This is second, third graders. Dude, there's almost no rules. But I've worked with him in the driveway, like, here's one hand up, one hand down. You're trying to block the low pass, block the high pass. And, dude, he sticks on these kids. Like, they were like, dude, you got to chill. Your defense is too good. Like, we can't. The kids can't even bring the ball up the court. But they're all second, third. So once one guy gets the ball, instead of them sticking on the man, he's already on his man. Yeah, and then everybody else is up. But
it's like the soccer deal.
Yeah, but he had a good year in football. But, dude, I kind of like where he's at in basketball. He can dribble all right. He can pass. But, like, last night, here we are. He gets the ball. He's open. He could take the shot, and he sees a guy wide open under the basket, and he bounced past it, and the guy shot it, and he missed, and he just, like, shook his head. And I said, dude, the fact that that's what I want you should do. I'm not the coach, but you need to pass it. These kids got to get confidence. You get 2 or 3 kids just ball hogging, it hurts everybody. But all right, I always get off on tangents, but before we go here, what's coming up on BTL? What can guys look forward to here before the year ends? You got any big plans, or do you got any special guests?
The big plans really started in 2023. Studios making a move from Jeffrey's studio and more to my house in Shawnee. So it's going to be an all-new studio, an all-new look. I'm going to go dark for a couple weeks in December while I rip everything out and build a studio in the house. And then I'm going mobile next year. So going to be on location at all 9 of the opens. I've already talked to some guys fishing the opens that are going to jump on every single event and going live in the evenings from all 9 opens. Pretty much every day is going to supplant the morning BTLs live from a lot of the sponsors' headquarters, a lot of people's houses. Looking at doing a couple BTL get-togethers next year too, like at certain locations throughout the year. We can all get together, fire up the Traeger, and have a little bit of a cookout.
That Traeger's high class, but I'm still on the Kingford.
It was a gift. So it's the same with my Yeti. Like, I'm like, oh great, I'm grilling out and I got a Yeti. I'm using my Traeger and my Yeti. I was like, I'm getting judged here, but the girlfriend's good with gifts.
I'll tell you what made me feel like crap last year. So my family, my wife, she's got a stepdad, and so she's got a big family. So her dad's a really cool guy. He's straight blue collar, works at a plant, just retired. We get Christmas, and I buy him an ice. He likes flannel button-ups. I always get him something like that. Well, her freaking stepsister and her new husband roll up. Oh, by the way, we got you a brand new Traeger. I'm like, how to make me feel like I'm a poor person, And I went over his house like a month ago. He's not even open it up.
No way.
He's like,
you should just lowball him and be like, hey man, I got $250 right here. That's more than it's worth sitting there. I got the travel one. Right. The smaller one, which is I mean, dude, I used to tow it everywhere. I mean, take it everywhere with me. I'll take it everywhere next year.
Yeah. Well, if you have a BTL meetup and it's close, I'll do my best to come up there. And I'm not into mobile stream. The problem I run into is I've wanted to go to tackle shows and stuff like that. They ain't got no Wi-Fi. And one person streaming, it would just lag so bad. But I want to go to the Classic this year. I'm sure I'll see you up there.
That's pretty close. I mean, how far is that for you?
4 hours.
Yeah, you gotta make that happen.
Yeah, in Knoxville.
Did you go to the launch last time?
In Knoxville?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild.
Dude, there's not many things, like, unfortunately, that get me goosebumps anymore. Because, like, I went to every single freaking Elite Series launch for 10 years. And every Classic and everything. Like, I kind of got screwed in the opens. I got conditioned to it, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, you get your co-angler, he's like, let's roll. And I'm just like, let's roll. Like, I didn't even realize it until you get next to someone who's, like, excited for it. And the goosebumps. But, like, that Classic, I got goosebumps at when those guys were taking off. And it was, like, one of the probably only times in the last 5 years that I've ever felt that, for another fishing tournament that was
Yeah, it's
going
going to be
on.
wild because our football team is really good. So there's been so
Oh
much
yeah.
media attention. And I had this big thing on Facebook, and I did not expect this to blow up. When Tennessee first played Florida, they had the guest picker game day. And I said, got to have Bill Dance. Dude, it got shared over 100 and something times. Like, holy cow. Of course, they had some woman from WD. No big deal. She's great, I'm sure. But I'm thinking, dude, you got the Bassmaster Classic coming. You got a good football team. We don't know about the basketball team. Your baseball team is amazing. They don the robe like Matt Robertson wears after they hit a home run. There's a lot of good things going about this Classic that could even be bigger than the last one. But that's a good area in the United States. Dude, Knoxville, you got all those guys from North Carolina, parts of South Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky. They can all just converge right there in 4 hours.
Like I'm looking at it, Jason. Still the same number of shows. There'll actually be even more shows. It'll still be in the morning. You can still listen to it in the morning. It'll just be like live evening shows. Like there's still going to be 200 BTLs next year, everything.
See, Bo Stevens, good old Bo, he knows. He says, preach, I'm buying beer for everyone in Knoxville. He's been on BTL.
Yep, absolutely.
Dude, Bo's an awesome dude. I've had him on here as well, not long after.
Yeah, he's the man. The only thing that sucks about Knoxville is the parking and trying to get to that dang expo.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I've been to many football games there. The parking sucks.
It's horrible. It was the worst by far. Like, we triple paid an Uber driver one time to get us close to that.
Yeah, my suggestion is actually kind of parking way away and getting an Uber in and getting an Uber out. It's bad. Trust me, I've been to some big games which we lost because we sucked in, and it was just a pain getting out. But all right, dude, it's 8:25.
Thank you for not freaking bringing up the 5-5 Sooners. That was class. That was a classy move for you.
Yeah, I'm not going to bring it up.
Did not really rub that in.
No, when you're 5-5, I tend to forget about you. But anyway, sorry, I had to.
Hey, have at it. I mean, we're gonna be 5-6 after Bedlam this week, and then Texas Tech is gonna roll us. We're gonna end up 5-7. We're not even gonna get a bowl game.
So I don't have an issue with Oklahoma. I have an issue with SEC teams. Oklahoma doesn't bother me. Matter of fact, Josh Heupel lit it up there. So as long as they don't try to get our coach, I'm good. But I've always heard there's bad blood between Heupel and the Stoops guys. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Have I thought about live streaming during my open tournaments?
I saw that. What's the rules on that? I don't think there'd be anything against it. In fact, I could see it in the future.
I think it's been done. It's been tried before. Didn't David Dudley do live stream?
Yeah, Dudley would do
Carl
that.
do it too?
Yeah.
So here's the problem. If you're doing live streaming in a tournament, when it works, it's fantastic. And when it doesn't work, and you've talked about how there's live streaming and all this stuff going on, and then you realize that a $5,000 entry fee and your qualification and all this is on the line and the camera's not right or you're in bad cell service, then it becomes a nightmare. So in a perfect world, as long as it's legal and you're not checking your social media or any of the comments or anything like that or using it to gain an advantage.
Yeah, you can just turn comments off on a live stream. So it's, I could click a button.
I would have to, like I said, I'm doing a rule show tomorrow with Ken Duke coming in. So I would have to look into that. I'm
going to ask, I'd like to get Duke on the stream too. I think me and Duke could hit it off on some OG bait history. I'd love to have that.
Oh, dude, yeah.
I don't know him at all, but I'd love to.
I don't even know the questions to ask him that you would.
Right. So I'll jump in the stream tomorrow. I'm going to let you get off here. Pangrac is always awesome. We can talk about anything. That's the cool thing we can talk about rodeos. We can talk about baits, fishing the opens, wiggle warts. We just make it happen over here.
We didn't really even get into any baits.
No, we didn't. It was just like, let's talk with Matt Pangrac, see what's up. You think of a bait or a genre of baits you want to talk about this winter if you got time, and let's make it happen.
Yeah,
I want to find something.
Do I have to know about them or ones that because I think OG wake baits like the long red fins and all that. There's a ton of stuff in there that I don't know about, and I know that there's like a cult following of lip melters and old school and bone and all sorts of crazy stuff. That would be a stream that I would like to learn from. Okay. Get some OG the wake bait, the redfin guys, the jointed redfin guys. Get them on here and do a stream on that. I'm all in on that.
All right, I got it. Guys, thanks so much for joining me and Matt. Be sure to leave a like on the video, leave a comment. Shop at Tackle Warehouse using my link in the description. If you order from 6 Cents Fishing, use my discount. Baitman. Also support some of Matt's guys. AFCO does some amazing stuff for the fishing industry. They make some legit clothing. So if you're looking for some gifts or something, don't forget the AFCO at Tackle Warehouse. And Matt, I'm going to let you go do what you need to do. And I'll be at BTL tomorrow sometime. Have a good evening, bud.
Dude, Baitman, always enjoy it. Thank you.